Well, hello. I think I've been to bed. I think I have. Well, here we are again, and here are the ratings again. My God, let's have a look. So, here we go. 1.59. 1.59. They found an extra 90,000 from somewhere behind the cupboard, but that's about it. But that's the figure we're talking about today, 1.59 million. Gosh, did we ever think every week that would seem to be a nice figure? I am, I mean, I've been fair. I've given it a red uptick, but God, this is talk about the relegation zone. So, my pal's on, John from Sci-Fi Chronicles 79. So here we are, John.
Hey, good to see you, mate. You all right?
Well, the news, does it get better? Does it stay the same? I mean, to me, it's a dead cat bounce.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's anybody who's rejoicing this morning. All I will say to them is, look, it's a limited thing. It's already done. I mean, look, we've already broken that 2 million barrier, and I don't think we're coming back from it. I I think for the final few stories, I think you're going to see a drop and a bounce until the end of it now. Each week, I think it's gonna flip flop like that. But again, these figures are awful, aren't they? They are atrocious. Even if you're the biggest fan in the world, you can't spin it as, oh, it's up, it's brilliant. More people are interested in it. No, no,
Yeah.
it's a small swell, isn't it? Really?
Well, what you'll see here, I mean, the context is everything, especially for those people who say, oh, well, it was a good weather day, it was a this, it was that. Well, it's all factored in. So there's the 1.59 overnight figure, and we'll look out for all the other stuff that comes up. As you can see, it goes up 90,000 after falling. But as you said, the average now is really starting to get a lot lower. That's our third 1.5 this season. There's a trend there, and it's a downward trend again. So as
Yeah.
an update, everybody, 1.01 million down from Space Babies. Yeah, it's still over a million. I'm going to keep you updated on that one. It's still only a year ago. So, yeah, it's the second uptick of this season. There were two upticks last season, John. But have you noticed the upticks last year were a lot more sizable?
I have, yeah, and I mean, it just speaks volume to how much, you know, it's a concern by the fact that this isn't just fans that are tuning out. This is the general audience that are just basically rejecting this show. You know, I said to you before in a previous chat, I feel that this show now is the classic, um, you know, cooking tea, having it on in the background type show now. I think a lot of people just have it playing, or it's played from the previous show that was on. It's just left on. But I think these are pretty atrocious figures, and whenever I get criticism of this, I just remember the words that RTD said when he came back. We're going to be bigger than ever, we're going to be larger than ever, we're going to be up there with the Marvels and the Lucasfilms, and the Star Treks and all of that. Well, doesn't look like it is, mate.
No, and let's put it in perspective. We are 1 million viewers down from the Space Babies episode that was on the Eurovision night last year. Let that sink in, everybody. We're still a million down. You can't say because it was sunny, a million people disappeared. You can't say a million people suddenly had some major issue in their life. And let's put this into context. They found 90,000 people. So they found a Wembley Stadium sized crowd. That's it.
Yeah, yeah,
It is a dead cat bounce. We're talking about the United Kingdom size,
yeah.
76 million or so of us, and they've found enough to fill a stadium.
It just, it couldn't happen to a nicer production team. It really couldn't. After everything that they've done to annoy and upset fans, this is, for me, it's manna from heaven, because these people deserve to have big failures on their resumes for what they've done. And I've said to you before in private, mate, the people that enabled them to do this and didn't hold them in check are responsible for this as well. Because, you know, the money that had been pumped into this show, you know, not just by license payers, but also by Disney as well, you know. And Disney, you know, arguably the wokest company on the planet, if they're looking at dipping out, you know, what does that say about your production?
Yep. And so let's carry on with our context, because the viewers, they're nice to see you, everybody. It's become a little bit of a feature. Some are gardening, some are listening away here. We're hopefully, well, I don't know about cheering you up. The latest data, anyway, the top rated program on BBC One was The Weather. um, on ITV, the biggest program was still Britain's Got Talent with 3.7, and then 1% Club with 3.4. To give you a further context, on Saturday night BBC, the top show, and you can, I mean, God, I mean, if you take a look at that, you've got The Weather at 2.43. Then the BBC News at 2.33, and then everything nosedives below 2 million. The Hit List 1.77 million. You've got Casualty 1.74. You've then got Doctor Who 1.59. Blankety Blank followed it 1.52. I've missed out Pointless Celebrities. I apologize. 1.63. Oh my God. And remember, Match of the Day comes so much later in the evening, 1.49. So basically, with what you've just said, all the extra money that Doctor Who, you know, swallows up to make the program, they're not getting the dividends back. I mean, you might as well just get some crappy celebrities to do a pointless show, or
Yeah.
a blankety blank show where you talk about some blank words, or you might do a special BBC weather exclusive. Honestly, you don't need to do much. You don't need Disney money. You don't need to pay Ncuti Gatwa a bomb, and you don't need to kiss the arse of RTD.
No, and you know, the you know, when I look at execs, and the example I'll give is David Zaslav, who is now Warner Discovery head, right? He was in charge of Discovery for quite some time, and what he did is he thought, right, I'm going to commission lots of cheap shows, don't cost me much, but the viewing figures are really good. So you know, you had, you know, women sort of shows, you know, about cooking and gardening and things like that, you know, he'd put on Discovery, and they did very, very well. And you know, things like Storage Wars and stuff like that. I
Yeah.
keep seeing people online, you know, and I try and hear their side of it, but it's just nonsense, because they say, oh yeah, but you know, if you look at the viewing figures for, you know, X Factor, it didn't get many more viewers than Doctor Who. And it's like, yes, but what is the cost for the production?
Yeah.
That's the difference. If you're an exec or a head of a studio, you're looking at what are you getting for a return on the cost that you're putting out for producing that show. Now, Doctor Who, arguably they've said, you know, allegedly they're saying 100 million was it for Disney invested into Doctor Who. So you're
Something like that,
getting
yeah.
so you're getting these returns, you know, on Doctor Who. It's atrocious. And I actually on one of my streams, I was saying to some guys in the US, and I said, normally I would ask you, how is Doctor Who doing in the US? But because the viewing figures are so bad in the UK, there's no point even asking you that, because people are clearly not watching in the United States. You know,
No, that this is the indictment here. If
Hmm.
we're measuring in, we've added one stadium's worth of crowd to viewing figures. You know, we are really, you know, chewing the cud. We really are bottom of the barrel, looking at what's left. It's a bit like when you were a kid and you were putting your hand in the biscuit barrel and hoping there was a crumb left. You know, it's getting desperate stuff.
Yeah, it
Now,
is.
to add a bit more context, so there you go. I mean, it doesn't even win on BBC Saturday night when it's up against cheap game shows, the news. I mean, wow. Celebrity Bridge of Lies. I mean, basically, it's just CGI where they're standing. It's like the adventure game. So There was a dip overall, I'll grant you. There was a bit of a context dip there because Britain's Got Talent lost about 250,000 from its normal. So you think, oh, so Doctor Who's done well. So let's look at the bigger context because this is what the trolls can't cope with. So I did some easy facts here. So the season 1 average for Ncuti Gatwa's era, overnights, if that's your thing, 2.27 million. This year, it's 1.71 million. There's your 1 million drop. But if consolidated is much more accurate, Brendan, and you're a nasty dinosaur and you just hate the program, right? Consolidated average last year was 3.7 million. This year, it's 3.24 million. So if you look at that, for the overnight, it's down by 560,000. If you do the consolidated, it's down by 460,000. Shall we do a kind of average between the two? It's down by 500,000 in a year.
Yeah. So again, it's not with giant pigs flying past the window, which made everyone go outside at the exact time Doctor Who was on. There is a defining factor of why people are tuning out to it, and Occam's razor for it really is it's not very good. That's why people are tuning out. It's not atmospheric conditions, it's the fact that the quality is subpar and people have said, no, I'd rather watch something else. That's it.
I mean, John, I don't know what you were doing at about this time. I don't know if you were streaming then, but or getting ready for it. But basically, I did a 5-minute breakdown of the program. So hopefully we get the 5-minute ratings breakdown, so I can quickly put them parallel and see when did we lose people. Because I had 2 anecdotes to tell you. One was my dad, who, as you were saying, we were saying earlier, he took me to Lonleat. He's not a big Doctor Who fan, but he's always watched it. He's one of those you want to keep on side.
Yeah.
He's easily pleased. He's quite happy, just give me some decent TV and I'll watch it. And I got a text last night after Doctor Who was on, and he was going off his head. It's been a bad week because, let's face it, the VE Day celebrations went DEI heavy and were representing the 1940s Britain in a way that historians would just go apoplectic about.
Yep.
And of course, then we saw Nigeria where it was a little bit kind of idealized. So very interesting. So my dad, I think the context was, oh, what are you doing? Why are you misrepresenting this country? And an all black episode. And it's just like, whoa. On top of that, John, I did flick over to Britain's Got Talent, the semi-final live, and I noticed at various points it was Britain's Got Talent, of course. It was fairly lively. But somebody was pulling Anton Deck across the stage in a vehicle with his eyelids. And the stadium was going wild. And they did the golden buzzer and there was ticker tape and everything.
Please tell me that was Jinx Monsoon.
There was a Jinx Monsoon character on. They were all going wild about them. So you had a big drag star, on the TV, and then you had somebody pulling Anton Deck with his eyelids. Meanwhile, if you kept tuning into the BBC, you had people in a barber shop in Nigeria talking and nobody dying and nothing happening.
I'm all for giving new writers opportunities, okay, but there's only one reason that he's giving certain writers opportunities, and it's to push his own diversity agenda. That isn't it interesting? I find that they all seem to have that same left-leaning viewpoint on the world. Everyone that he commissions to do a story for Doctor Who, because they think like him. You don't ever get the other side of the picture with these people. We talked about it off screen, but they paint this wonderful picture of Nigeria, without all of the dark underbelly of Nigeria and what has gone on. It's like they make it sound like it's a utopia for this doctor to go there.
But why is it, John, that when it comes to Britain, we have to do warts and all?
Hmm.
Britain, you have to fess up. You weren't a perfect country, and you've got real black chapters in your history, and we're gonna out them. And
Yeah,
we have to sit there and listen. And they wonder why there's some kids, especially young white males, who get angry.
yeah,
They're getting shouted at all the time by people like you, RTD. And then they decided, well, our progressive look is to make you love Nigeria, with all its anti-gay laws, with this, that, and the other. I kicked off last night about it, John, because I'm sorry, the lie can only be stretched so far. But
yes.
why is it some countries or members of society, we aren't allowed to say the same truth that we have to apply to ourselves?
Because we're now in a situation where we've got a democracy that only allows one thought process to be allowed within the country, and certainly with what's going on with our government at the moment, they enable it. It's been going on for the last few years, and we've talked about it before. You've got these writers who live in their lovey bubbles. They don't actually ever see the real world. They just paint their, as I said, their utopia of the world, and it's white man bad, UK bad. We've got blood on our hands for our history. They go down all of this route, but they never praise the positives about this country and its history. Have you noticed? It's very peculiar, that, isn't it? I think with this show as well, I just think, we're talking about it as Doctor Who fans, right?
Yep.
Now, I've had conversations with many people. The general viewer is sick to the back teeth for this now, in my opinion, because every time they put on a program now, we've said about it before, you can't escape. You can't just switch off for an hour and go, right, I'm going to watch Doctor Who. I'm going to go and see him take on monsters and, get in the TARDIS. Now you're preparing yourself for the next lecture at every moment of the story. So I think people can't even get into the story. And then also you've got, like you had just said, I didn't see the episode, as I've made clear, but you've got a story where nobody dies, you know.
Yeah.
So what are people watching it for? People are watching it and then they're realizing, oh well, this is just about the message, isn't it?
Well, John, it was even worse because, as Lee Smith is saying here, where did they find all those black extras? There were 80 supporting artists. What was fascinating was they wanted to say, and they used the word authentic. We want to show an authentic view of Nigeria. So basically, to be authentic meant, to be honest, everybody was black. So okay, that's a truthful, I assume, representation of Lagos. Go for it. I then showed on the program last night 1814, according to Doctor Who, when they showed you an extremely diverse cast,
Yeah.
and that was a lie. And you have this nonsense. But I'll tell you what, John, last night on Unleashed, did you see the Nigerian advisor for the
No.
show? There was a young lad, actually. I mean, bless him. I mean, good for him. I mean, they paid him to, to give them advice on how the marketplace and everything was depicted, and was it authentic Nigeria. Meanwhile, you can completely misrepresent how
Isaac Newton.
society actually looks today.
Hmm.
Absolutely. I will, as my first example, say anybody tune in to the VE Day celebrations this week, as done by the BBC. And wow, I did not realize 1940s Britain looked like that. I
Yeah.
really didn't.
I mean, I'm just sick to the back teeth of it. I really am. I can't keep quiet about all of this nonsense. I mean, again, I said to you, I've just done season 10 of Capaldi again, which I enjoy. But you're right. When you've got the ice fair and you're walking along and basically you've got an Indian guy who's a con artist, and then you've got black people walking past, and then they even make a point of actually putting it in the script, effectively, I'm paraphrasing, of going, oh yeah, it's not actually like they told us it was, is it? And it's like
Yeah.
almost like white, reframing history. And it's like, that's okay. You can, because it's London and it's our history, you can do that. They're happy to do that stuff. But no, Nigeria, no, you can't have it. I mean, you know, there's a double standard there, because hang on a minute. So why weren't there loads of white people walking along in the episode last night? In this episode in Nigeria, were there? You know, because you've got to have, you can't do it one way and then not the other. You know.
No, and that's what I mean. That they're saying we have to show authentic Nigeria, right? Okay, so show authentic Britain. No, no, no. We need to show you the Britain it should
Yeah.
be. Ah, no, that's a different game. So we're talking about the ratings, of course, everybody. We never forget, but
Yeah.
this is what he's done to the program. You can't just talk about where do we stand. That's the actual, in a nutshell. He's found 90,000 extra people, which, funnily enough, the week before, when it was 90,000 less, there was a big football match on at Wembley. So you almost wonder if they've just got back home, and it's the same audience, just with the Wembley lot. Now,
Yeah.
you saved yourself from watching the show last night, and I am very intrigued. Now, John, honestly, if you look at this is my summary of every 5 minutes of the program last night.
Yeah.
Because when we hopefully get the 5-minute breakdowns, I know, for example, John Daly told me his husband, after 10 minutes, stormed out the room, was furious.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely furious. Now, why would that be? We had the prequel when we got this little folk story about the doctor was like a fireman and put out some fires in a village from the TARDIS.
So he's like what, the AA and the RAC now? Is he like the fourth emergency service for the world now?
Yes, because he visits Nigeria a lot to go to that barber shop. He goes there a lot for his safe space. And then in the second 5 minutes, we got the importance of the barber shop to the Black Doctor. He was still in the TARDIS, and the smile on his face when he landed in Lagos and he got his vindicator thing out, and he was grinning from ear to ear, and he just said, you know, I'm the first doctor to be in a black body, and I need to come here because I feel as though I'm part of, I'm with my own. He says, I'm with my own.
You're a Gallifreyan.
Yeah. Oh, he's limited now. Whee!
You know what? You know, jump the shark, right? We've not just jumped the shark now. We've jumped the shark, and we're now blasting our way into the sun at this point. These people are just complete hacks, aren't they? They really are.
Well, it was even worse because Belinda Chandra joined in. You know, she's had such a hard time in Britain as well. You know, that she was talking about her gran used to take her back to India to be with their own.
Well, why don't they live there then? You know,
they say we're racist. They, you know,
Yeah.
Britain is racist, and it's an uncomfortable country to be in with the black skin. Well, yeah, you want to be a gay person with what's going on at the moment, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Get with it. Isn't it funny? RTD has said, oh, it's a dark time. We need an emotional doctor for these dark times for queer rights. Meanwhile, he allows a script about a Nigeria where LGBT is illegal and they don't say a word.
Yeah.
Tumbleweed.
It's ridiculous. And can I also say, mate, that it's such a dark time and it's such a dangerous country that we live in. The fact that you've got a gay lead playing the doctor who had the opportunity, and through the goodwill of this country, took him in and his family, and he got the opportunities that everybody else got to learn his acting skills and to develop. And then you've also got the same with, you know, the companion, who also had the same opportunities as everybody else in the country, and has now got, you know, a main role on a what used to be a top science fiction show in the United Kingdom. So they push all of this nonsense, but yet straight away the evidence just points straight back at them to say, well, you're saying that we're such a bad country, but you're talking about, you know, we need to do better and all that. But you've got two people in these roles that actually got those opportunities because everybody played a straight bat and they were given the same opportunity as everybody else. These people, you know, RTD, you know, it all goes back for me to the whole wheelchair scenario with Davros and everything, you know, and the rockets in the wheelchairs. You can't have evil people in wheelchairs, but you know, it's a nonsense. It really is.
Well, I've tried to fight this. I have tried to fight it. Without evidence of people's motivation. I need evidence of the motivation. I can't go down the, screaming at them road. But
Yeah,
there seems to be an accumulation of evidence now where it's clearly propaganda, and it is clearly therefore an attempt at social engineering of what's going on here, because you are refusing to tell the truth about another country. On 2025 British Broadcasting Corporation schedule, but you're happily saying the Britain that we are showing you is not the real Britain, but it's the one we want. It's like,
yeah,
what is this? This is dystopia. Now, by the way, just before you come in, televised feedback in America, this channel is the most I've partaken in a Doctor Who community in a decade. Well, welcome, and thanks for joining us.
good to see you.
It's very nice to have people from everywhere. Doug Anderson joined in and said the handful of African markets I've been in have had very few Europeans or other non-local people walking around. So therefore, it's interesting that the Doctor feels safe there because of the skin color thing, but him acting gay and being in a barber shop and calling everyone babes, he felt really safe in a country where that would have got you 14 years in jail. Michael Herbert, ever the historian, does tell us, for balance, regarding the ice fair in 1814, there was a black community in London in early 19th century, as documented by Peter Fry in his important book Staying Power. I'm sure there were lots of people of different color in the Roman army by Hadrian's Wall. I mean, we all do know that,
but was it so large as it was in that episode that they were literally in every single scene, in every single moment?
It was crazy, John. It was crazy. I didn't have time, obviously, to watch the whole episode before yesterday's show. I only needed those 3 minutes at the beginning where Bill Potts comes out the TARDIS and the walk. There was a black soldier, a black Artful Dodger, Chinese people, black people, this and the other. I have no problem with this, but it's getting rammed down your throat. But it was happy as Larry to show you Lagos looking very authentic.
Exactly.
Now, I want to play the game with me, John. If you look at this breakdown of last night, how far would you honestly have given it as a Doctor Who program? So you got this story about when the Doctor used to visit. Then you got the Doctor saying he loves going to this barber shop because he feels safe as a black Doctor. Then the black lad in it gets his hair cut and tells a story. That's to survive in the chair. Then the Doctor gets his hair cut and to survive tells the story of Belinda being an amazing nurse. The Doctor then feels betrayed by his mate from the barber shop and opens the door and you see we're in space. The barber says he has many gods as he cuts his own hair because it keeps growing. It's very strange. It's like that Play-Doh plasticine thing. Then you see the fugitive Doctor appears for, 2 lines. Then the Doctor follows the map of his braided hair because he's had his hair done, and that gives him a map like in Prison Break, blah, blah, blah. How long do you think you would have lasted? You tell me on your breakdown, how far was this entertaining to you from the sounds of it?
I would have been out in the 6 to 10 minute bracket, importance of barbershop to a black Doctor. But I would also say I am laughing now after not seeing the episode to Doctor follows map in braided hair.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Can you see Pertwee or Tom Baker doing that? It's just it's just not.
And it was very intricately done, and he was just following his finger, and I thought, whoa, God, are you sure that's just not dandruff? So basically, it was Prison Break. It was like that. Yeah, I don't know. Televised feedback. I think given enough episodes, Doctor Who can get as low as 1 million overnights. Only the diehard of diehards will be left. Televised feedback. We're hitting an interesting moment now because we've got 3 episodes left. The next one is so imbued with the Eurovision that it might get a big uptick. Number one, for everyone's curiosity, because even John might be tempted to go, I want to see how bad this is. I want to see how chaotic this gets. And then, of course, we hit the finale, the 2. So where basically you're going to get all the kind of payoff. So basically, I think it might shoot up a little bit. Garbage here. 5 minutes Dalek shoots human, 10 minutes Dalek shoots another human, 15 minutes Doctor discovers the Daleks are nearby, 20 minutes a Dalek appears in a transmat, 25 minutes another Dalek appears. You mean Jeopardy garbage, and you mean action.
Yeah.
Because actually, it was really funny, John. In this barber shop, the light would go when you were telling the story. You're trapped in the chair, you couldn't get out. It would go green if the story had fed the spider, and it would. I assume it would stay red if it was a rubbish story. It hadn't fed the spider, but no, I don't know what happened then. And nobody died. Nobody died.
That's bizarre. I mean, I was going to say to you actually, for this Eurovision episode, are you going to be phoning all the panelists for their scores like they do on Eurovision and go, oh yeah, from Sean and from Sean, yeah, it's 0 points from Sean. You know, just put them up on a chart. Just do it in the same format. It'll go down quite well.
Well, yeah, where we'll do something. I definitely. I mean, to me, the most exciting part of the episode, I had to wait, and was when he opened the door and you saw the space vortex, and there's a barber shop on the back of a spider. Now that's 25 minutes into the program, and the show's only on for 45. It's not enough.
So, do you? I mean, you've been watching it, and you know, I'm on record that I watched season 1, but I haven't watched season 2. Are you getting the impression that, you know, he's become so lazy now that effectively he's just padding a story now? He's got a very thin story and he's just padding it with a lot of nonsense throughout that episode now. Do you feel that?
I feel as though the story ideas are lacking. This story, if you want to call it a story, it's got a political message, and it's about a barbershop. In essence, it's Desmond's from Channel 4 in the 1980s. They used to only been half an hour, and you did laugh. It was apparently entertaining. But the other thing was, it's very niche. He'd written for the National Theatre. He did the Barbershop Chronicles. And RTD went to see it, and RTD said, I'd love you to do Barbershop Chronicles with Doctor Who. But that's extremely limiting. I understand you can do a Base Under Siege and all that stuff, and that, you know, Horror Fan Rock, you're just stuck in a lighthouse. You can be limited in set. But just to have a lot of people talking about the wonders of a barber shop, and then the light goes from red to green or green to red, and then eventually you see you're on the back of a spider, it's not enough. And
especially if you're looking at kids, mate. I mean, you know, you take us out of the equation, you think, right, okay, he's talked about he wants to, you know, get the youngsters watching it. Well, if you're a kid, you know, you've watched it. Is a kid gonna stay the full course of that episode, or they're going to go, you know, I'm bored now, I'm going to go out with my mates in the street and play football? You know, that's where we are with it, really. You know,
yeah, look, I wanted action. I can still feel a big kid in my head, and as soon as I saw the spider, and actually the barber shop on the back of a spider is very Doctor Who. It's very so imaginative. But in the end, I was willing the spider on, and in the end, the spider died, and there was no payoff there. It just died. It never spoke like the giant spiders of Planet of the Spiders.
So it doesn't even start with like a jump scare or anything like that. Then before the title sequence.
To me, the only jump scare really is the light, because you think the red light would mean somebody gets incinerated or taken away or eaten by the spider. No. You don't see what the consequences are of telling a rubbish story.
Well, that's for RTD, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, the beauty of it, and a lot of people were saying this in the stream last night, was isn't it amazing that the story, the episode, is about the beauty of and power of storytelling, except the story itself wasn't very powerful and beautiful. This is the 5-minute breakdowns statistics for the week before. And yet again, at the 25-minute mark, John, it gets to its lowest figures. I just don't think they've got their 45-minute episodes sorted out. He thinks this is the format. He insists on this format. He is supposed to be the guru of Doctor Who. And every time I manage to get the 5-minute breakdowns, it proves that you lose people in the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you hit the dip in the middle, and people only come back because they want to watch blankety blank afterwards.
Yep, that's it. That's what the data is showing, isn't it?
So it doesn't work. And by the way, I have to shout out JWC Reviews. I've got you on in a minute in one of your slides on your predictions. You've done very well. It should have been called A Story in the Message, he says, or Legopolis. Mind you, just before I forget, and because the thread's lively as usual, Cyberman strikes. He's one of our detoxers, and I want him to stay as one of our detoxers. Good old Dan. He wrote to me yesterday and said he's over with Doctor Who now. This is the problem. My dad got angry. John Daly's husband walked out after 10 minutes. Cybermat strikes, decent bloke, said, I'm out. People are getting so insulted by what happened in the program. This is bad.
But you know, even if they were saying, right, okay, we want to do, you know, historical stories, you know, and we want to tell it, you know, we want to tell those stories in Doctor Who. Fair enough, you know. We know from, you know, 63, you know, you had the Aztecs and, you know, you had Marco Polo. They were very well done. They were very, very good stories that engage people. But this isn't, because it's revisionist history all the time. And, you know, as I said before, you know that there's a lecture coming up within the next few minutes. You'll just, you know, I wouldn't even be surprised by that chart you've got up there, that that's actually where people are actually looking every 5 minutes to think, right, where's the virtue signaling coming? Where's the lecture about how horrible we are as a society and people? You know, where is it? Where are they putting it in? Is it going to be at the 25-minute part, the 20-minute part? That's where people are with it. And, you know, like I say, you know, Cybermat strikes. I've been on a stream with you and him before, and, you know, he adores Doctor Who just like I did, you know, but
not Paladin.
But not Paladin. Yeah, exactly. but he, you know, it takes a lot for him to say, no, I've had enough. It's like Jeremy, you know.
I know.
And same with me with, you know, I said to you, I came back for the 60th. I gave them the benefit of the doubt. I thought, let's see if they can resurrect it. They didn't. I tried Ncuti season 1. I almost called him Susie then. And then and it was terrible. So if we're thinking like that, and we've got a vested interest in Doctor Who, what is the general viewer thinking about it? And the data is telling you what they're thinking about it.
What's in common is I can see your shelves behind you.
Yeah.
What's in common is Jeremy's always got his books everywhere and everything. He's got all the memorabilia. It's the same with Dan.
Yeah.
And all three of you buy into the merchandise and buy into especially the classic Who, of course. And that's where the money is still coming in.
Yeah.
But there's a disconnect. The BBC are relying on the money that's coming from classic Doctor Who, and yet refusing to admit that what they're putting on TV now will never be called classic and won't bring in the money later on. In other words, their dividends are going to start to fall, and then they have killed the show.
Yep. And again, it's another victim of this decade-long nonsense. You know, we've talked before, you know, you got your Star Wars and you got your Marvels. They've all gone down that same road, and sadly, I think Doctor Who has been the most damaged by it.
Well, I'm going to help Garbage here because he's helping me. He's our moderator, lovely lad, and he works very hard. Garbage. The people are out on Facebook today putting grumpy faces on each post and calling me a hater and backstabbing the TV industry. And I need to take into account the worldwide Disney figures. Yeah, which they never tell you, by the way. Yep. So let's help you out here. I've got, let's have a look. There you go. I found it in Canada. It's at number 24. There you go. There's your good news, everybody. It's trending in Canada.
But look, can I also say about all these, and I'll help Garbage out as well, you know, all of these idiots that come out and they say, oh, you know, but you're not taking into account the Disney Plus figures. You're right, Brendan. They do not publish their data. They release it when it's good news. As soon as they feel it's good news, they'll put out, oh, you know, Andor got, you know, 15 million viewers in the United States. You know, they don't do that when something is a dog with fleas. They might have tried to spin it in season 1, but actually, if you look at season 2, Disney don't care about Doctor Who anymore.
Nah.
Disney's done to them. They're out. They've gone. In my opinion. So it speaks volumes in the marketing, and it speaks volumes in how much publicity that they give to Doctor Who now. It's a failure.
Yeah, it's a bad smell. Raymond Williams here. I was extremely lucky as a kid, and I do think we were lucky. I mean, the 70s were great to be a kid. End of. My first memory of Doctor Who is watching part of Terror of the Autons. How much happens in that first 25 minutes? Introducing Joe Grant, the Master, Captain Yates, and it is still a story. It's not like it's relying on the Master to appear at the end like Mrs. Flood, and then it distracts you from actually the story was flat as a pancake. No, there's a lot going on. I totally get what you're saying there, Raymond Williams, and I could list so many stories like John could too. Since we are the ratings show at the moment, facts are facts are facts. There's the whole Ncuti era. Whether you go on the green overnights, the orange catch-ups, the pink platform data, or the 28 days, which is more of a kind of yellowy color. Well, where's the good news? Because can you see the downward trend? Can you see it, everybody?
Yep.
There it is. So he's not got it right. And I just want to keep reminding everybody, I'm looking at over the last year or the last 5 years. And I'm being very, very fair. I look at every piece of data and compare with like for like, and it's not happening.
No.
On top of that, here, John, Russell Davies on Doctor Who's low ratings this season. It is getting there, he said.
What does he mean? Rock bottom?
I don't know what his mission is.
I mean, this guy, you know, I've tried to be as kind as I can over the last few months, but the guy's just a complete prat, isn't he? You know, he just spouts this nonsense. He did it in season 1, where it wasn't going the way he wanted it to. He suddenly switched to, oh, you know, it's doing excellently in the demographics that we want, you know, and he keeps moving the goalposts. I thought that this guy was going to make it bigger than ever, but he's made it worse than ever, and people are turning off from it. So well done, Russell, you complete hack.
Yeah, we've just listed die-hard Doctor Who fans like Dan, Jeremy, yourself. I know many more. Then I've got people like John Daly's husband storming out the room. I mean, when you get shouty telly from Shouty Gatwa, why would you hang around to be shouted at? I mean, honestly, him stood in the TARDIS going, oh, I just need to go where I feel safe. I know it was like a nostalgic chat about the Barber Shop. And in a way, I felt sorry for the writer in the way that he did very well with the National Theatre production. And somebody approaches him and says, do you want to write a TV episode about this idea? And Inayo Elam says he struggled to get on TV. So this was his big break, so to speak. So I'm going to do the Barber Shop. But the snag is, RTD, what sort of Doctor Who beat was that going to be? And, you know, Raymond Williams mentions Terror of the Autons, which was loosely wrapped, you know, set up around the kind of the circus and the plastics factory. But there was enough going on. We weren't stuck in one room staring at a daffodil for 45 minutes.
Well, I mean, you're right. And I think, look, when I look at things as well, you know, RTD1 era, right? When it came back, do you remember when they used to, and I used to get them, they used to release like, you know, character options and stuff. They do like a monster set for that season, you know, of the characters from that season that were good monsters. Over these 2 seasons, what monsters are good enough to actually be included in a set? And that's your problem, you know. It's you know, English, it's bacon and eggs, it's Doctor Who with monsters, you know, not sitting in a barber's shop deciding whether you're going to get a perm or not, you know.
And it was a cultural thing. And I was trying to imagine why people were getting angry and turning away. And I really desperately want to see these 5-minute breakdowns. But I think you were asking a member of the British public, casual viewer wanting a chilled Saturday night. Maybe they've been out and about and all the rest of it. and suddenly they have to go into this niche idea of a very cultural thing that certain Nigerian men like to go to a barber shop. I like to go to a barber shop to be in, out, no chat, end of. I'm not trying to build a bloody relationship.
Yeah.
And you know, I really don't want to waffle on about life. I really can't be asked. There's people behind me over, earwigging. No, just make sure you cut it. And I want to get out and get on with my life. I find it a boring, tedious exercise.
Look,
Obviously, sorry, I know.
yeah, you go.
It's a cultural thing. I get it. But it's not my cultural thing. But I can go for it. I can sit there for a while. But I'm thinking, where does this fit in with Doctor Who? Then it doesn't feel like Doctor Who. It's about a cultural thing I've not experienced. And then actually, I found the accents were a little bit problematic at 1 or 2 points because they were talking quietly. Then there was the music. And in the end, I just thought, this is hard work.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think also, mate, for me speaking personally, I haven't been to a barber shop for obvious reasons for quite a long time. So I actually feel excluded by RTD, so I haven't been seen, everybody. It's terrible. I'm going to have to do a post on Facebook about how I haven't been seen.
Yes, we need to be kind to John.
Yeah.
Because if he felt excluded, and it's such an inclusive program, Doctor Who, we still want you on board, even though you don't go to barbershops. I mean, honestly. Now, I have Horace. Thank you for giving me a chance to obviously give the Who pets some cheer. They are working their socks. They don't go to sleep, I mean, it is a Brisbane sweatshop. Here we go. So thank you very much, IF Horace. When I find it, there we go.
Can I just address Sean in the chat where he said, "You haven't been seen, John. Neither has your hair, mate." Ha ha ha. My hair was seen, but it's been gone a long time ever since the hair fairy took it away. Okay. All right, Sean. So that's bullying. All right. And we will be having a conversation at some point, mate.
Yeah, that's it. While he hides behind his anonymous logo,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You go and get your perm, Sean.
Yeah, don't worry. He'll have a dummy in his mouth on Tuesday at the Children of Time, because as they've allowed me to put them in a creche. They're going to be good. Children of Time. You're going to get it. I'm going to be super nanny. So thank you, IF Horace. Very, very generous to help the Who pets to get the therapy that they will need after last night's atrocious preaching. Use this donation to pay for their psychological support. Well, of course, he doesn't need psychological support. It was his safe space. He's just sat. I've got my chair I normally use. It's like the barber's chair. He's sat in the barber's chair. I'm just waiting for all this to grow. And of course, Belinda Chandra, she was in India. She's just come back. Hello, honestly. Don't say I'm not diverse on this show. But RTD says it's getting there in the ratings. Like you say, I don't know what he's talking about. But remember when Stephen Moffat said this? Everyone talks about the ratings as if they matter. I was in a position to know how much money that show generated. That's the number you want to look at. And that's why Doctor Who still gets made. It's a massive show and it's never not culturally important.
It's crazy. Doctor Who, anything with ratings matter. I would say they do matter. I would say that's probably the most common metric that studios use worldwide to decide whether they're going to recommission a show or a production. I think that's still the same today as it was in the 80s, as it was in the 90s, and before that. I think the massive cope on it is unbelievable. Viewing figures count. You can't say that, and think that is the case. It's a massive factor, and everybody seems, I see online, keep saying that, overnights don't matter. Overnights do matter. It is so important. now you will see. Again, I agree. I said to you before, Brendan, production costs also factor into it. So when they're looking at the
Yeah.
overnight viewing figures, they'll also look at, right, how much is this costing us to make? Then they make their decision on it. That's what it comes down to. It's not some secret formula. These are meant to be intelligent business people that decide whether it is worth investing in a production. You know,
And and like I said, which metric do you want? My dad's a good barometer, I'll be honest with you.
Yep.
I've got other anecdotes. We've all got other anecdotes. We've got fans we know who walked away from the show. But overnights is another factor in this. As JWC Reviews does say, he's a playwright and it was very theatrical. And so basically you've got the essence of I was going to, I'm just trying to remember. I was going to
Yeah.
school there, John. One of those moments,
Yeah.
senior moments. No, whatever metric you go by, the measurements are it is struggling, and I just think to say the overnights aren't important. Well, hold on a minute. If in box office terms regarding the theatre, if the first few nights aren't getting the crowds in, even if you think in the long term they might come, they are, half the time they're full, don't they?
Yeah.
And
Exactly right.
and and it would crowds in stadiums, stuff like that. They might be playing the prettiest football, but if the crowds are not there, they will get concerned because it's money.
Yep.
Raymond Williams here. The show has deliberately been hijacked. I mean, I never even properly stuck with that verb ages ago, Raymond Williams. I think I've said vandalized. But yeah, I know what you mean. To be
Yep.
used as a political vehicle to push an agenda. There is no hope when people euthanasia this type of mentality are making the show. I mean, there seem to be kind of harming the show deliberately just for something that they can't be bothered to do, which is to go into politics. Garbage. There was something on yesterday called Inferno. Doctor Who didn't look like Doctor Who to me. No men in skirts, no messaging, no barbers, no bi-generations. Wasn't Doctor Who at all. No Easter eggs, no little fugitive doctor appearing for a second. You know what RTD said about that?
What's he said?
He said when we were doing such an ethnic episode, it seemed just right to get Joe Martin in. Is that it? No story.
Yeah. I mean, from what I've heard from you, about you've got literally, what is it? Is she in it 30 seconds max, something like that?
Max.
Yeah, and it's like, this is the problem I have with RTD, and I had with Chibnall as well. If you want to create a series, I won't agree with it. I'm on record as that. But if you want to create a female Doctor series, or you want to create the first black gay Doctor, you make sure your scripts are fleshed out and they are checked. You've got them as good as they can possibly be, and they are ready to go. But they don't. They push this agenda, and it's low hanging fruit kind of stuff from them. It is so substandard from these hacks that they think they're actually pushing their own viewpoint forward, but when in fact they're pushing it further back into the weeds because people just openly reject it. They could have done it with getting a better caliber actor, and they could have, as I said, made the writing much better, but they haven't, and this is where they are now.
Well, I wanted to raise this as an issue. Everybody can have fun. Some are predicting, well, what happens next week with the Eurovision episode, whether the football goes long and all the rest of it. Well, John, this is the situation with the TV schedule. They had initially ITV, once they had that, set to about what time does it kick off. It was going to be Match of the Day live on the BBC One up to Doctor Who, and live FA Cup final on ITV up to Deal or No Deal. Now, if you just take a look here, this is the situation then. So basically, the Doctor Who episode will be teed up by the FA Cup final. Most people watch the BBC compared to ITV when it comes to things like this. So the baton relay will probably be handy for Doctor Who. And then ITV will have a deal or no deal celebrity special. And as a lot of people are saying, that's kind of given Doctor Who half a chance.
It has, but I still think when you get to those 5-minute breakdowns, when we talk about it over a week on, you're still it'll be borne out that you'll still have the same problem. People will be checking out and they'll probably be channel hopping and they'll come back in for Eurovision. I don't think people want to watch a Doctor Who Eurovision. The people that are going to watch Eurovision will watch Eurovision. And I might be in the minority here, but I think that this one is actually gonna fail.
Obviously, I think it's one of those where I know people are dying to see reactions from several streamers. It's one of those,
Yeah,
because it's a big one. I'm looking forward to it. I've lined up special guests, so I mean, I've teed up this one. I do think this is going to be the one that will. Well, there's the reveal of who Mrs. Flood is. There's the fact that this tees up the finale. Definitely, it's got all the Eurovision froth with it. You'll have will there, won't there type thing. You'll have whether Doctor Who does land on BBC One or whether actually they go into extra time and then it's stuffed. I mean, I'm intrigued, John. I'm intrigued. If they did go into extra time, then the BBC would have to put it on a different channel. I wonder how much that would affect the ratings, because people all can press a button. Do you know what I mean?
exactly. But then, you'd have the same people online going, oh, yeah, well, there were obvious reasons why this episode didn't do well, because, people had to press the red button to watch it online. And they just, after using a remote control for 30 years, they just haven't figured out how to press a red button yet. So that's clearly the reason people have tuned out of Doctor Who. But I mean, I'm calling it now, but this Doctor Who Eurovision episode, Ncuti's going to do a Bucks Fizz where Belinda will just rip his skirt off at some point, on stage. So hopefully that gives you all a nightmare for the week. I'm not watching it, so I thought I'd let you all suffer.
I've got nightmares already. I was telling John before we started, I'm sure I saw a screenshot of a Sea Devil in the audience. Did you, everybody, or am I seeing things? So just to give you context, this is the channel that tries to give you context as well as the proper details. If we're being fair, the top 5 shows across 2025, 2024, 23, and 22 for this last week. So we've been as fair as we can, seasonally adjusted the lot. Well, this year, Race Across the World, Beyond Paradise. So you've got, what do you call it? It's kind of a game show, isn't it? But it's expensive. Beyond Paradise is a drama. Britain's Got Talent show, and then a bit of satire and another drama. Go to last year, Britain's Got Talent. Britain's Got Talent all the way through. Britain's Got Talent is a home banker.
Yep.
Last year you had Red Eye and Race Across the World again and Beyond Paradise again. You see, give the audience what they want, same time, all the same. 2023, you had a big I'm a Celebrity South Africa special, and the year before we had more soaps. But you can see, if I was RTD, it'd be going, well, if this is what I'm up against, I either do have to go more soap opera, although that looks as though it's died now. Much more dramatic, Beyond Paradise. He doesn't. Barber Shop. Going bigger on the entertainment value, Barber Shop. A Barber Shop episode against Britain's Got Talent, you're going to be absolutely whopped.
Yeah. I mean, but it's, I think what I find strange when I hear you talk about it is how he swings for the fences to different sides of the story each week, because like he's got now, what is it? He's done the Barber Shop episode, which to be honest, back in the day, I'd call it the filler story, the bottle
Yeah,
story, you
yeah,
know. And then he's going all for the fences with this Eurovision one. You know, he's already talked about it being the most expensive episode, isn't he? And you know, we've got that controversial idiot that's written it. And you know, I just don't. What they don't get is the fact that, you know, if people are tuning in for Doctor Who, they're not tuning in for that. You know, they want to tune in for a Monster of the Week story. They don't
yeah.
want to tune in for, oh, let's look at Alien from the planet Sprog, you know, twerking across the stage. That's not what they tune in for, but that's what they're going to get.
Well,
And
it's just like, Attenborough, Life on
yeah,
Earth, all his great environmental series about the planet and certain species. Attenborough, right? He's the cast iron guarantee with that and a
yeah,
ratings killer for the world. But nobody says, oh, I must tune in to Doctor Who for a historical documentary lesson in what I didn't know. No, you go, you want the kids sat on the settee, you want them filling their pants going, what's this? Because they'll be scared then they'll get to bed quickly, they'll
yeah,
clean their teeth quickly, they'll jump into bed because they're scared of the dark, and you've got them signed and sealed.
yeah.
Bricking it. That's what you want with Doctor Who, because there was no way, as soon as Doctor Who finished night to go to bed, say when I was a lot littler, there was no negotiation. You needed your mum and dad to save you from the sea devils,
Yeah.
to get you up the stairs. There was none of this messing on that you sometimes did at other points.
But
No,
it brought you back though. It brought you back the following week as a kid because you had that adrenaline spike where you were like, that really scared me last week, but I shouldn't watch it, but I'm going to watch it again because I want to find out what happens. And that's what it did for me. Every week I came back and I got scared again every single week, but I still kept coming back because I loved
yeah,
that adrenaline of being frightened by what I was seeing.
yeah.
Now, like I say, the kids, even if you take the scares out of it, what is there in it that makes them think, "Oh yeah, I'm really glad I
You
tuned in
see,
for this. I'm going to stick with it."
well, what's really weird on this Spider Week, and as Garbage said earlier, a lot of people were talking about the Spider before this episode. I was looking forward to the Spider because it's Doctor Who, and it was a nice effect, but it didn't go anywhere, so it was a shame. And as
Yeah,
Garbage says, people aren't really mentioning it now. Now, me and John didn't realize this happened, but separately, separate lives, other end of the country, on the same night, we both watched Planet of the Spiders.
we did.
Who knew? Who knew? And if you just look at episode 1 as an example, everybody, let's go down memory lane for a moment.
Yeah,
There's musical beats and directing beats when as a kid you build into the cliffhanger. You
yes,
knew when you saw that cellar, you thought, oh, and then you hear this, I think it's a xylophone or something, and Dudley
yeah,
Simpson is just making it go, whoa, and Sarah and Mike Yates are getting into position, and there's a big web there, and there's the Buddhist kind of mat and everything. Oh, there's going to be
fantastic.
trouble, and you
Malayali,
Oh yeah, you know what? I was in a Catholic school and I had that written down because I think I had the book, the Target book. We're doing a Target book special on Thursday, everybody,
Yeah,
me and John as well. And I remember I was plagiarizing, and I was using bits of it and putting it into my story. And I remember Sister Jane, my English teacher, was like, "What's all this Buddhist stuff? Bloody." Anyway, I must look very out there. And of course, the spider was in it as well. She must have thought, "Whoa, he's
but
really deep." And
but also when you look back to then and you look back to payoffs, you have that. They've paid it off by the fact that the Doctor in a previous story has taken the Metabilis crystal, right? You see him get back there. What is it? The Green Death, isn't it? He gets back and his jacket's all ripped, and they've got that scene where there's a big bird or something coming towards him. They then have the payoff of that there's a consequence to him stealing that, and then he makes the ultimate sacrifice in that final episode because he goes, look, I've got to face my fears. That's what Doctor Who does brilliantly. Is the Doctor is basically saying, I know this is going to kill me, but I've got to face my fears and I've got to atone for what I've done because I've caused this problem. And he does do it. Whereas now, I mean, this is from me talking about season one. There's none of that anymore. There's none of that of, I actually look up to the doctor because the doctor's saying, do the right thing, no matter how hard it is, do the right thing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there was actually a kind of, I know I'm pushing it, folks. There was a Planet of Spiders moment in last night's, and I don't mean regarding the spider, but Sarah Jane and the Brigadier were worried sick that the third Doctor was never going to come back, and will the TARDIS come back? Remember, he'd gone, and
Yeah.
and that was it. And they were a bit morose, and then suddenly he landed, appeared, staggered, fell on the floor, and you remember, I mean, it was makeup, but it was also acting. The third Doctor looked ashen. He
Yes.
looked so ill. He didn't cry. He just looked very, very ill.
Yeah.
And, you know, it showed you the gravitas of that moment. And I can't imagine. Anyway, sorry, the episode last night when the barber and the doctor were stuck in the engine and they were blowing it up, so to speak, a bit of hocus pocus. The companion Belinda and the others have got out the shop and they're staring at the barber shop, and then suddenly the vortex opens up and you see the doctor run out with the barber, and then the spider nearly grabs them. That's it. But basically there was an essence of the Planet of the Spiders where you did have a moment you wonder if the doctor would ever appear again, didn't you?
Oh, okay. I mean, that's, you know, I think, like, my problem I have with the current era as well is, you know, like I've said to you before, you know, when you go back to season one of Ncuti, you've got this Mrs. Flood character who is already effectively being wiped out by Sutek, just like everybody else on Earth. So
Yeah.
you've devalued your villain for the following season because people are already in their minds thinking Mrs. Flood's a downgrade on Sutek because Sutek wiped her out of everyone else. So if the Doctor or whoever he was with could defeat Sutek, they can defeat Mrs. Flood quite easily. So the stakes are already reduced by the time you even get to season two. And what I like about, you know, the Planet of the Spiders is the fact you get that point, you know, just touching on that story again, you get the point where the Doctor is always used to having his own mind and being in control. And when he goes and sees the Great One and she's turning him round, you know, controlling his mind and his body, and he shows fear, and you're thinking, I've never seen the third Doctor fear like this, you know, and that's what's missing. They don't set up the stakes to make anyone think, oh, this is dangerous now. This Mrs. Flood character is really a threat. There's
Now,
none of that. If you saw her kill someone, that would be different, but you don't, do you?
well, televised feedback is making lovely comments and everything. I might want to kick back on this one as two Doctor Who fans. I think the fifth Doctor cried at the death of Adric. My memory's a bit hazy. I know he was so happy. he was ecstatic.
If you look at the deleted scenes, you know, he's literally just throwing Adric's furniture out of the TARDIS stores in space.
Yeah, what's all this Star Chat crap? And I no, I mean, you could see Janet Fielding she was pretending she was sobbing, but she was going, "Oh, this is fab." And Nissa was kind of, she was just going with it. I thought they were very happy. I bet they went for a party that night.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think so. Televised feedback. I mean, it maybe is just our imagination that it was a very sad moment for somebody. I'm trying to work out who. Please send in on a postcard who was sad at that moment. But now, remember the only time that the Doctor cried in Classic Who, I I think he was quite happy.
Yeah.
The fifth Doctor, Nissa and Tegan were trying very hard not to corpse, says our John. Yes, I think they were.
Yeah.
And now, just as we kind of discuss ratings, we've got up to the well now, the demographics. So here we go. The kiddies. Top show, Britain's Got Talent, 473,000. Bluey, Race Across the World, which is on late. The 1% Club, 99 to beat, and then Doctor Who. But Britain's Got Talent beats Doctor Who 3 times over.
ouch, you know. I mean, again, regardless of how he spun it that this was the demographic that he was going for, it's being rejected by them as well, isn't it? You know, all the data, and again, everyone that keeps coming back and saying no, we're wrong. You know, the data doesn't lie. The data is saying people are checking out in every demographic. You know,
and this is the one, didn't I? I'm sure if I could be bothered, I
yeah,
could find RTD's countless interviews where he said we're aiming for the 8-year-old and the 6-year-old. Well, age 4 to 15, not really. I mean, Bluey, 99 to beat. There's what, 3 game shows there? Sorry, yeah, 3 game shows, a kiddie show, and a talent show.
yeah,
And it makes sense to me because I still think kids will be sitting with their parents as well. You know, it still happens. Not every family is totally dysfunctional. Kids will be sat Saturday night watching Britain's Got Talent because it's a classic moment when the family, your mum and dad, can laugh, cry at some of the talent or non-talent. But why aren't they tuning in? Doctor Who is so far away there. So the kiddies, no. Okay, then let's look at another demographic. 16 to 34s. Race Across the World. Yep. Britain's Got Talent. Celebrity Big Brother. Doctor Who. Middle road, just above EastEnders. It's not standing out a mile.
no, it's I mean, it's sorry reading, isn't it, really? And again, the data doesn't lie. People are not interested in it. You know,
Nah.
it's a nothing burger. For,
And just to give everybody the complete data, there's the ABC ones, and you've got, have I got news for you? Beyond Paradise, Antiques Roadshow, the 1% Club, Grace, Interior Design Masters, then Doctor Who, with half the audience and more left besides from Race Across the World. So yeah, Doctor Who is not happening. Right, yeah, I'll cheer you up now, John.
yeah. Oh, please do.
Apparently, yeah. The Story in the Engine, which obviously got 1.59, and we'll try and get the breakdowns for our 5:45 show. This is what he was saying about his great ideas. About the Doctor, we just find him in various situations where he has to use the tools available to him to engage with the adventure or the problem before him, you know. And here, his color of his skin is part of how he interacts with the people, but it's the most reductive part. It doesn't really matter. The episode marks a first for the series, with the TARDIS landing in Lagos, Nigeria, and Move Elms calls a hug, an olive branch to the fans that exist in that part of the world.
Are there fans in that part of the world?
Well, we've hardly got any in Britain, so let's go for it. Maybe there's a Nigerian Doctor Who fan club.
Well, maybe, and this is controversial here, but maybe that Wembley Stadium image you put up a while ago, maybe they're the Nigerian fans that came over and actually watched the episode in Wembley Stadium. Maybe that's the uptick, you know.
I think the Nigerians who like Doctor Who live in Britain.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, you know, but yeah, so you know, it's a kind of love letter to Nigeria. Right, yeah, like I said, it's got some accuracy issues. But this bit, his color of his skin is part of how he interacts with the people. No, it never, ever, ever was. And you, Anaya Ellum, says you're a Doctor Who fan. It never happened at any point.
Well, you know, you look at the Doctors. I mean, again, example, you know, Colin Baker, you know, in Mark of the Rani, you know, he goes back in that, you know, multicolored outfit that he's got in that time period. He doesn't care because he's not interested in fitting in. He doesn't care what he looks like because he walks with an authority to basically say, look, I'm here, you know, like me or don't like me, but I'm going to sort a problem out. It's absolute nonsense that these people come out with. And again, when you hear comments like this, you know full well they've never watched an episode of Doctor Who in their lives. You know,
Well, it shocks me. Mind you, John, try this one. That last line Ellum says, let's try this. Doctor Who now is a hug, an olive branch to the British fans that exist. Can you imagine them saying that?
no, not a chance.
What, the ones that pay for the show?
Yeah, exactly. So it's again, you know, this is for me why we actually need to get to a point, even when Doctor Who's said and done, that we need to just, the license fee for the BBC needs to go, because they need to actually have to find funding elsewhere for their programs. And I think if they don't have a license fee where they're drawing money off people every year, and they don't have a consequence as such to what they're punting out to viewers, you're going to keep getting the rubbish. I think if you're accountable for it, and you've then gone to, a streaming setup, and you've got a sponsorship model, an advertising model, you've got advertisers that you're accountable to at that point. It's a very different world, and I think the time has come for that to happen, because just look at the quality that's being pumped out by the BBC now.
Yeah.
I said to you, my dad grew up, worked for the BBC, but there was always a point with the BBC where I always had a sense of pride, because they weren't perfect. They didn't always get things right. But when you watched a BBC production, like the news, or you watched a program, they at least tried to make like a period piece as relatable and relevant to the history that, they're basing it on, as much
Yeah.
as possible. Now they don't.
No, and Mud Crab, it's interesting, isn't it, this? Because I first saw Ncuti in Sex Education when he got the job, remember, 3 years ago. So I thought, oh, I'll see what he's in, and what he is he any good? And there is actually a plot line there that his gay character goes to, I think it is Nigeria, and does he get beaten up? He has a really rough time, doesn't he? It's dangerous, and he comes back a slightly different lad. He's, cowed. So even Sex Education, which started to get a bit silly in the later series, did get a bit of authenticity in there. Meanwhile, Mud Crab, you've got him, his family were asylum seekers from Rwanda, and Rwanda is at one part of Africa, and it would be closer to go to Nigeria. I mean, they could have just gone to Nigeria and put their little baby in a barber shop for him to feel safer, apparently, than going to Scotland, where actually clearly he did well. But as Mud Crab says, Africa is a region, not a single culture. Exactly. It's too simplistic, isn't it? Broad strokes. It would be like a Spaniard saying they're fitting when in Poland, cause well, this is the point. It's clumsy, and that's what I called out Ncuti, because Ncuti had asked John for this script. He'd asked for the Doctor to go to Nigeria.
But you look, there's been actors who have played the Doctor before, and they've wanted their artistic input to say do this or do that. I get that happens in a production, but someone should be pushing back and saying, well, we could do it, but only if the script is on point. If we've got if we've got the jump scares, if we've got some monsters that'll make people engage with the story. But they don't even do that now. It's literally a propaganda vehicle now for
Yeah.
these people.
Yeah. But let's not do anything about Britain. We tell a lie about
Yeah.
Britain, but we'll tell another lie about another country. Now, JWC Reviews is still with us. So while he is, I was bigging him up, because he did just this morning, before the ratings of 1.59 million came out. This is what he said. It's Doctor Who ratings day, and I'd like to have a guess. Last week was 1.5, but it was good weather and the bank holiday weekend. The sunshine held this weekend, but it was just a normal Saturday. I think it will rise, but not by very much. And he predicted 1.62. So actually, well done, JWC. That is pretty on the nose. And you'd been doing a lot of working out. There's a baseline, probably between 1.5 to 1.7. I showed earlier that we've dipped by about 500,000 from season 1, which wasn't very good. So actually, well done. Honestly, yeah, there you go. He's on the money. And it's nice when we all have these guests.
Good, isn't he? He is good.
So Ellams, I was. Did you notice I was doing then? I was doing a nice comfort blanket before. Ellams reflected on his childhood. I thought about who I was when I was a kid, as I fell in love with Doctor Who. What it meant to me then, what it means to me now, and trying to write a story that unites all those things. Oh, the moral of the story is to give credit where it's due. I was trying to give credit to the nuance and the racial diversity within Nigeria itself. Is that a science fiction concept?
No, it's not. And again, you recruit hacks, you get hack scripts, you know. And I I'm actually going to go out on a limb here and say that Ncuti will be the first Doctor that, you know, essentially he doesn't meet the Daleks. And again, I've said to you before in private, I think I cannot even see the Cybermen and the Daleks existing in this universe with what they've done with this show. They just, I don't think they fit into their style for a series. Really, it
No.
just it's night and day to me. Um, because just before the Daleks about to exterminate them, the Doctor would hold it up with a tear in his eye, and he'd be basically talking to them about diversity and asking them about their pronouns or something like that. It's got that silly now that you could actually see that sort of stuff happening.
Yeah, I must admit, it's a bigger jump now. I mean, he in his moderate way, he's got a little bit better in the last two episodes. They've changed the scripts clearly, where they've made him slightly more the centerpiece. But this is like so incremental and so slow. It's so gradual. When you think that well, it wasn't after 4 episodes of Robot, but Tom Baker was pretty established
Yeah.
after Robot. He landed it. He didn't need 16 episodes. I
Yeah.
mean, that would have got us to around Genesis, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. Yeah.
But go on.
I was going to say, I mean, but the difference you have there when you look at Robot as well, you also had a companion that had a joy about traveling through space and time with the Doctor. They write these companions now of it's a chore. Why are you taking me around space and time? If the TARDIS landed in front of us today, we wouldn't moan about the fact, oh, you've landed on my lawn. We'd be like, take me with you. I want to go and see what's out there. But they don't now, do they? They've got even the companions preach, and they're just, they've got faces like slapped asses, haven't they? Half the time,
Yeah.
it's a misery and it's a chore to go on an adventure. Or what period am I going to be in today? Oh, I don't know. I might sleep it in the TARDIS today. It's that kind of mentality that they brought into the show.
I mean, they should have. I mean, again, they're so downbeat, Doctor Downbeat. Remember when Matt Smith, he regenerated, he became Matt Smith's Doctor, the 12th Doctor, the 11th Doctor, sorry. Remember when he touched his hair? I'm a ginger,
Yeah.
and there's a kind of excitement
Hmm.
that, oh my God, what am I now? And he was almost wanting to be ginger, wanting to be, and oh, I'm a girl. And he was doing all that lot. And it was just like the excitement of being a newborn, almost a bit like Paul McGann did a bit of that in the movie. And what's really weird is you look at this Doctor and it's like, well, I'm black, and so it's going to be hard work. Instead of going, I'm black. Oh God, this is going to, yay,
You're right.
It could have been so upbeat. Instead, it's gone, oh, I'm black. Oh, that means I'm going to have to be very careful. And
You're right, mate, 100%. Because don't forget, when we went through all that bi-generation nonsense, and he hugged Tennant's Doctor, and he said, you're worn out because you carried this baggage for too long. You go and retire and sit in a garden and rest. I'm going to carry this. I'm okay to carry on now. That you don't have to anymore. And it was written like he didn't have any of the burdens that the previous Doctor had, so he was going to be full of bubbly joy, and excitement and wonder. And yet you come to the series and he's just reverted to type RTD, and he's talking to them about, like you say, because of my skin color, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to go out there. You've got a TARDIS, a machine that travels through space and time. Do you think anyone gives a stuff about what the color of the skin is?
It didn't ring true. It ran true to the culture reference, but not to the Doctor reference, which is he said to Belinda in the TARDIS that he likes to be amongst his own. Again, that's Gallifrey. And now there's black Time Lords. We know that from the Moffat era. So I don't know what his issue is about having to go to Nigeria to Barber Shop. And he says, I go to the Barber Shop and he goes he puts all the accent on. Again, it's affectations. I was talking to you about gay affectations that can be put on. And he suddenly, they're nothing. And he does all this. And you're going, oh, here we go. And he says, we have a laugh and we talk. And I'm thinking, the Doctor is such an intellect, and he goes to a barber shop to talk to Nigerian mortals, and they have a laugh, and he does a lot of that. I can't really want to do it really, but he does all that accent. You're thinking, this is just not the Doctor. This is the writer reflecting something he wants to show about himself, really.
But it's also on a similar subject. When you talked about at the beginning of this show, where you talked about there was an image of, he's putting out fires from the TARDIS doors or whatever it is. I've seen that online. That is just nonsense. So not only that, so the Doctor can't go on adventures, because if he's doing that on Earth, is he also doing that on loads of other planets as well then? So he's got a full-time job now then, is he, essentially? Just dealing with day-to-day stuff.
Well, it's turned into the Doctor's a caretaker of that hotel.
Yeah.
You see, obviously he wasn't putting out fires or helping the Nigerians or visiting the barber shop while he stayed a whole year to do the plumbing in the Sandringham Hotel. He's a taxi driver for many companions who just like to be delivered. And now he's a fireman and a farmer, because part of the story was he helped. It just went on and on and on. Anyway, I don't want to fall into the same trap as our friend who's written this episode. So we are going to love you and leave you, everybody, now. And get ready for tonight's show. It just carries on. 5:45. I've got the original crew, really. John Daly's obviously there. We've got Hugh's back because Michelle's still on maneuvers. Obviously, Rachel's there and Paul's there, and I've seen their figures. Oh my God, the arguments tonight. Is this going to be whether it got the
nuclear, everyone?
Well, the ratings aren't the worst for this one on overnights, but I am going to just say to you, I think I'd tune in at 5:45 because the scores, I just have to make the screens now. Very interesting. So, John, thank you very much. I know you did a stream last night, which everyone should check out. Sci-Fi Chronicles 79. You're on with me on Thursday. It's our think tank slot, but it's a Target special, isn't it? But
looking forward.
What's happening on your channel?
Yeah, so I did a show last night, and we just discussed about the woke. Basically, has it gone or has it just been rebadged? And then we just took some examples of upcoming trailers to see, whether we rated it as going to be woke or not woke. That was a lot of fun last night. We do the Stargate SG-1 live watch-alongs. We're not doing them tonight because in the US it's Mother's Day, so my American panelists are busy doing that. But we'll be back next week. And other than that, it's Doctor Who and movie reviews we're also doing on the channel. So check it out if you can. But thanks for mentioning it, Brendan.
Yeah, and so on Thursday you'll see John again on this channel, and we'll be talking about our favourite Doctor Who Target books.
It's going to be great.
And a few bits and bobs with John and Hugh and me. And so it'll be a nice cozy show. I think, in all this bile and up this, there it is. Look, yes. The 5 Doctors, that shiny cover. Yeah. What we're all going to pick. And if you want to just go down memory lane and Target books. Remember when? Did you get into your bed and read them? Did you have a little bean bag? Did you get a little, the routines, everything. It's fascinating. So that's brilliant. Thursday at 5 o'clock. Obviously tonight at 5:45, I'm on again. Thank you, John, for your time.
Thanks, mate.
I think we better go. Bye, everyone.
Take care. See ya.